Welcome to this show called Tangible Tale, which is a group of recent paintings by Lisa Corinne Davis. Lisa was born in Baltimore, originally in the black neighbourhood there. Her father tragically died when she was 4, and so her mother decided to become a lawyer, and she was one of the first three black women in the state of Maryland to get a law degree. So she'll explain her schooling, as it were.
So after leaving private Quaker school, I went to Cornell University, which is an Ivy League university in upstate New York. My mother's dream was to have the best education, and so to end up in a university like that was perhaps her dream more than mine. I was anxious to get to New York and to paint and start that journey. So I transferred to Pratt University and studied painting. After Pratt, I went on to Hunter College, which is a public college in New York City, which has always had a fantastic art history and studio program, and it's where I currently
Because Sam
teach.
Hunter was there, wasn't he?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, exactly.
Yeah, he was a legendary figure.
Correct, and Motherwell went there,
Yeah.
and Tony Smith, so it has quite a modernist history.
And now you're a full
Professor there, yes.
So you've done the complete circle.
Yes, indeed.
But you were you taught at Yale before that.
Yes, before landing at Hunter, I ended up first at Parsons School of Design teaching painting, and then went to Yale University, which also has a great MFA program, but in New Haven, Connecticut. And so when offered to teach back in New York City, I jumped on it so I could have closer proximity between studio and my job.
And then a couple of years ago, you did that amazing mosaic at Hunter College.
Subway station. Correct.
Which is, so again.
I have my permanent stamp.
Yeah.
On the Hunter College campus, correct, yeah.
Anyway, so that's to give you a sort of basic idea. Let us have a little explanation of what the theme is. And you paint only in oil,
yes.
Thank goodness. The difference between oil and acrylic is extraordinary because you get real depth and, okay, when acrylic is brand new, it's okay,
Correct.
But it doesn't age very well.
No, it's plastic, and so oil has oil in it.
Yeah.
And it reacts to light, and that kind of luminosity of pigment and oil, as far as I'm concerned, can't be beat.
Well, I think it's absolutely essential part of it.
I do too.
And of course, the other advantage of acrylic, you can paint over it and, put another layer on.
That's true. But the more you put on, the more plastic it becomes.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
No,
the disadvantage of oil is it has to dry. So it makes the paintings develop slower.
Well, it means you can't paint one painting at a time.
No, I cannot at all.
Or you have to go on vacation every week.
Exactly. So there's always multiple paintings happening in the studio at one given point. And,
So we've sort of put the show into some form of theme. Here they're very predominantly yellow, but there is the line coming through it. This one over here is really quite different because it's much more plains than. How would you describe this one then?
The vocabulary, the paintings look different, but the vocabulary is similar, meaning there's a reference to a grid. There's this netting, which is more mobile, elastic. There's ruled lines, there's geometry and organic form. And so I build this vocabulary almost in a counter position. So if something is put down like a grid, which seems very flat and to the surface and factual, I'm like, what's the opposite of that? Well, something that feels like it's movable and not measurable. So maybe the web will come in. And so there's always this conversation between things in contemporary painting or modern painting that I think of as fact and fiction. Organic form is fiction. It's body, nature, etc. Geometry is fact. It's math. It's measurable. So yeah, they end up having in the end different rhythms.
But this one, almost the net doesn't exist in this painting.
Correct. Yes. It's been pushed to the background.
This is, to me, doesn't seem very American. This is much more European.
What do you mean by that?
Well, you know, it looks quite like sort of French painting in the 50s. The attitude, you know, these are very, very different.
Correct.
All these ones, the net is your first impression, whereas here you have to look for the net.
Yes.
The net is almost non-existent.
Yes, it's true. But exactly what you did is what I want, because you are European.
Yeah.
You brought that's in James's DNA, right? So everyone brings to anything, even people and races, what they already know, and that becomes part of the conversation. And so that kind of
Yeah, but you had to remember, I lived in New York a bit of 68, a bit of 69, all 70, all
Correct,
71
yeah.
and 72. So my formative eye was in America. And then, you know, in the sort of mid-70s, I remember seeing a show of, first time I saw polka, and I thought, well, he's a bit too like Rosenquist. Well, that was, and the problem was, having spent that amount of formative years in America, I missed out. I didn't really understand German art because it was just coming up.
I understand.
But I think that basically German art came to its forefront in the 80s because there was, you know, you had the tension, the political tensions because of,
Correct, yeah.
of the Berlin Wall and all
Right.
that. Whereas I think that in the 80s, American art became quite complacent. And there was an extraordinary show a few years ago at David Zwirner's of New York Cologne,
Yeah.
a comparison
Yeah.
of the things. And you really did feel the grit
For sure.
that was coming out of,
Yeah.
of Germany.
Yes.
You know, it's all changed now again, but Messier or something like that, see that as being much more European. But there's not, you know, whereas a painting like this one has nothing to do with Europe at all.
No, exactly.
You know.
That's true.
In a way, I feel there might have been an influence of Jasper Johns in this painting. You know, there's the Four Seasons
Yes.
and things like that.
I love those.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And I love the fact that they take on these different personalities. They
Yeah.
don't want them to be the same
Yeah.
anyway.
You know, talking about oil,
Yeah.
these paintings, this painting is so organic in different light and daylight, and the advantage of this gallery is that actually we get, when the sun is out, we get extraordinary different lights, and it bounces off the Economist building there. So the placing of some of these paintings is also to do with the light, and here really is an example of what you can do with oil you can't do with acrylic.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm glad you're talking about the light, because the light is very important in the paintings for me.
Yeah.
The luminosity is what keeps them having some muscle, you know, some agency to them, and they're constructed to the. I'm interested in the back plane of the painting being hard to detect. That everything is kind of in some mode of trying to set a position. And you know, in this one, and often in the paintings, I start out with a gradation. So you can see the yellow here gets darker. So already that gradation substrate in the painting becomes light, you know, because of that. That's the immediate first move to keep the plane not a
But
plane,
how
but
do you
lit.
get these lines?
So I tape, and so these organic shapes were taped. And then within the taped area, there's a mixture of wet on wet paint.
All
versus the not.
this is, is it one day's work? You know,
Yes, one layer is one day's
Yeah,
work. Yes,
yeah.
correct. Yeah, because I can't go back over it
Yeah.
until it completely dries. And then there'll be another kind of taping or not.
So something like here, this is on top of that.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. But how big an area would this have all been taped?
So originally, all these organic shapes
Yeah.
were taped.
Yeah.
Then in some cases, things were painted over them,
Yeah.
or painted
Yeah.
linear lines over
Yeah.
them. So, and then in this one, back to the grid, there's a subtle grid that was put in later in these
Yeah.
squares.
Yeah.
So what happened in between, the yellow became the
So
darker.
this is a pencil, is it?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So trying to put some stable structure back into
Yeah.
all this, movement and chaos. So there's a tension between those
Yeah.
two things. And to go back to the title of the show and the titles in the paintings, I often use two words in a title. And I keep this list of words that feel factual or actual, like tangible. But a tale is a story, right? So, so I play with alliteration a bit, but also with these words that have different sensibilities of how much your imagination can go with them and how much just straight up tangible tale. So all these levels of triangles that feel
Yeah.
like shadows were taped at different times in the painting. So a level of taping happened and then a glaze go over.
Yeah.
Glaze being this thin layer of oil
Yeah.
paint.
It's very complex in here of many different layers, which really come alive with proper lighting. Talking about lighting, I suppose it was around 1980. I went down to Rauschenberg's studio in Captiva, and he only painted very late at night under neon.
Right. Wow.
And the thing is, those paintings, if you have them show them in any other light but neon,
It doesn't work.
that doesn't work, and
That's
people
so
don't understand
interesting.
that. And I
Yeah.
thought, well, if you'd been to the studio, you would understand that he painted it. He
Wow.
got to work in neon, and people put big lights on it
Right,
and everything. And
right.
I said, put it under neon, and you've got a different painting.
Yeah.
They don't listen. That's why art is like a north light, because it's constant.
Sure, sure. And in my studio, I have lights similar to this gallery that
Yeah.
are a natural light that can be dimmed. I also have a big window,
Yeah.
which is really lovely. I'm always struck, but based on what you said, that when you move the painting out of the studio, I've
Yeah.
had such a long relationship with it there
Yeah.
in that light, that when the light does change, I have to, it's a moment of negotiation with that, whether that's going to work or not. So, but luckily, most of the places I've been able to show have fantastic lighting.
Yeah. But light is so important, and people.
It's so important.
Yeah.
And especially, again, with oil paint, I think it's
Yeah.
super important. But I also, I think I'm also interested in the conversation of a field of shapes, what indicates a location and what indicates travel. So as a kind of shorthand in abstraction. So, so I play again with that formal language and try to maybe make it disrupt it a bit. Yeah. So even though we have this traveling, almost dotted line that feels like a path, it also it disappears and doesn't reappear where it should. And then like the impulse of what color suggests, like so these maybe skin, people, but it's geometry. It's like not quite aligned. So and more vibrant color is louder and more insistent, more determinative, but maybe doesn't always align with that kind of move in the painting. So I'm completely a formalist in thinking and a modernist in thinking.
How do you when you start with a white, a primed canvas? Where do you attack first?
Right. It changes.
Do you draw?
No, absolutely not.
There's no studies for it?
No, because I want them to be conversant.
Yeah.
And if I drew them or computer generated them, you would always know it's a copy of something. That kind of call and response, you would sense it in the work. I mean, I always say to my students, how you make it is what it is. So you can't fake something. It's part and parcel to the reading of it. So they start with a ground color, like I said, sometimes gradated. And then I have an assistant that I ask her to do something very random, like just put a bunch of squares on here or a bunch of triangles, because I want her to set up something for me to respond to. Doesn't matter what it is, but and that starts the conversation
completely.
And it also becomes kind of the armature somehow of where the painting can go. But I need to respond to something. And again, I parallel it to my life and having to navigate different places and spaces. I was always responding to something that I sensed was the direction to go, how to behave, who to talk to, whatever. Painting is a physical performative act. I'm always, how I engage with that surface is critical in my mind. And and it's fine. People have different studio practices, different ways that they set up a space to work from that is important and determinative to what ends up, on a canvas. I mean, even a palette. I have friends who have paper plates with paint mixed on each one. Well, that's fine, but those are the choices they have for the painting, right? If I have a glass palette and I'm always mixing, I have more options. I need more options. It's what I need, I need that fluidity. So I don't know what color combination will happen. I have no idea where the painting is going, or where it will end, I mean.
Is this early on making?
Later.
That's later.
Yeah. It's if I meet you somewhere and I say hello and you say hello, that's a simple conversation. We have 3 hours together. It's going to get more complex and nuanced and negotiated. And so because these go on for quite a while, they get that way.
Because here you can see this one is put on after that one and this. It's fascinating when you can see that the trail changes.
Yeah, I mean, and then these little things these lines were painted wet on dry. But these were wet on wet. So I want them to break apart more from a linearity to an action, right? Just that little thing is a big deal for me. So that even as you assume how something is functioning in the painting, it just shifts enough that maybe it's something else.
But you can see there are layers and layers.
Correct. I mean, I try.
And that is, as we say, the beauty of oil.
Yes. On some level, I want them to be a little unsettling, so the colors aren't harmonic, or whatever that word should be.
Do you go through sort of periods of a dominant color?
Yes, unfortunately. There's a lot of yellows in this room.
But
I've been interested in the heat of yellow, so I've gotten addicted to that lately. So
but there's a lot of blue.
That's true.
So this show is on till the end of May. I hope you will have a chance to see it. Thank you.
Please do.
Okay.